And welcome to the VR Gamescast. Hello, everyone. My name is Zeena. I'm going to be your host. Jamie's already taken a stand. So joining me is Jamie, the hog of the camera. He likes a little walk around.
Sorry, I had to close the door just in case we got the echo
Oh,
thing.
okay.
Today's podcast is sponsored by this Oculus problem. Why can't I just record in 1080p and that not break the entire UI? Why can't I just do that? Last week it was the settings. This week it's this. Tune in next week for the next thing that's massively wrong with the Quest that I wish they'd fix 3 years in.
Okay, so that was that's what grinds Jamie's gears. And
UI problems. Wah. Wah.
Don't do the baby voice. You hate it too.
And also joining us is the Viking King, Ian Hamilton.
I was amazed by how well we ended the stream. We're never gonna end a stream that perfectly ever.
I mean,
again.
we can just
Hello,
drum
everyone.
our way out. We can just drum our way out every time. Of course, we are not alone. Here we go. I'm going to do a little roll call here. Thank you for joining us, Chris Richardson, Opkazar, Rudolz Vendno, Daniel Lingard Leaper, The Triangulator, Andrew H, Paradise DK, Lucky Do, Free Manson, Lambo.
Oh no! Stop!
Stop. He's dead. He's dead. We don't have to talk. We don't have to.
We
debate
We
that.
can't free him. Freeing him would
Spiller,
be
the driller.
biblical beyond nature.
And Adam Hartzell, the absolute boy. Gustavo Barandes, Virtual Night, all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. We love having you here.
Shout out to the first person in the chat from half an hour before we launched. Amazing elevators and claws. Said 29 more minutes. I hope you stayed that 29 minutes. I hope you're here. And I hope we're living up to your expectations.
Was it
So far.
29 minutes until his internet cut out? I don't know. That would have been sad. Shout out from Austin, Texas, from Brandon C. Yo, what up? Good morning to you. Special
Melanie.
shout out. Well, first off, wait, let me have a look here. Can you see this down here? We've got a little scrolly thing. We can't see it on our screen, but we've got a little scrolly thing that we just
Oh, is
implemented.
that working? Is it there?
Yeah, it should be on there right now. I think it's on the latest headlines. So yeah, I've put the latest headlines on there. And a shout out to our members, which will be constantly going throughout the stream. But I'm just going to give them a verbal shout out. We've got 2 new members. The first is Devin Miller. Thank you so much. And Matthew May, who is in the chat, I believe. Thank you so much for joining us. The older guys are here too. Rick Ted, Robert Cornonas, Steve Evans, Smash Reality, Adam Hartzell, John Westra, and Dominique Fruchtman. Thank you so much for supporting us month after month. We love it.
You guys paid for a delicious lunch today. I had a really good lunch, and I thought about you while I ate my lunch. Thank you so
Why
much
would
for
you
that
talk
lunch.
about lunch right after we get in here? I can't go eat right now.
Because we've had lunch in our world, in our land, in our mystical world. Lunch is a thing of the
Yeah.
past.
It's a thing of the past.
I can talk
It's
about
done.
lunch with a full belly and reminisce
Can you
on
hear
the
the
tasty
pats?
food. Am I
That's a
patting
full
my
belly.
torso when I do that?
Patting
If
your
I lean
tummy
back,
This is the worst. I just added it. I guess I didn't.
so
You don't want to eat
tasty.
me here. You don't want to hear me eat through the stream. Eat me here.
I don't want to eat you. No,
Didn't I?
absolutely not.
Hear me eat.
Oh no.
Ooh, second
No one would eat
lunch
the
could be on the
Viking.
cards. Could be on the cards. Anyway, we got a handful of news stories to get through. Some pretty nice ones actually this week, and then we'll move on to our impressions of Warplanes, WW1 Fighters, and Cooking Simulator, and then our review rundown of Stride on Quest.
And
Before we get
Everslaught,
into it.
not
Oh, and Everslaught, that was
impressions.
like that was a little
Last minute.
added on thing.
Fit that one in there today.
Oh, just zippity zap that in there. We're going to do Everslaught as well because you guys have been loving it apparently. Another little thing before we get into the news. I'm really sorry, guys. But if you really like Upload, we've got t-shirts and you can see it just down below this stream. It's, we're going to be expanding the merch, but I know some of you guys have been wanting it. Feel free to get it there. I think we're also on Amazon, but I think that's the easiest way to kind of down there. Go for
you
it.
really want that. You want that moment where you're like walking through the mall and you're wearing your Upload shirt, and like
People
someone
like-
sees you just from the other side, and they give you like a little knowing nod, and they nod back.
You know where the future is.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
You're in
You thought
the
you got a
metaverse
little
already.
knowing. You thought you got a little knowing nod the other month or something, didn't you? When you wore it, I don't know.
What,
I'm not sure
for
if you
wearing
did.
the Upload shirt.
Yeah,
I
I think you did.
Maybe I did.
I wore a Rec Room shirt and got noticed for someone who knew Rec Room, but not for Upload yet.
But you didn't make Rec Room, so that's not quite as cool.
I just, no.
But yeah, if you guys like the look of the shirts, they're going to be there. We're also going to be putting up other designs in the future. Let us know if you like certain like phrases that aren't copyrighted or so on. We'll get that going for you guys. But that's enough of that. Enough of all that. We're getting on to the news. First up, the PSVR 2 news. Oh my gosh. Sony held a private conference to brief developers about its upcoming PS5 VR headset. This was first revealed by our good friends PSVR Without Parole. Go check them out right here on YouTube. I think they've had like a couple of discussion streams about it. Go check them out. They're great guys. Especially if you're into PSVR, they're like, you should definitely watch them. As well as confirming the specs that we reported on a couple of months ago, including...
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Zeena?
Oh no, we lost Zeena out of
Zeena's gone.
reality.
It's all right. We'll
popped right
we'll fill
out.
in.
I hate it when Thanos shows up.
And all the dust is in the studio. It's okay. We can deal with this because Zena's shouting from the other room. I don't know what's happening. If you're listening to the audio,
She
Zena
went up on the TV. She teleported right up to the TV. That's where she had to go.
Oh yeah, maybe activating the video expelled her from the room. Anyway, so basically what we're talking about here is that yesterday PSVR Without Parole put up a lot of interesting alleged specs about PSVR 2. I would imagine, Ian, that's something that you and Heaney, specs and feature-wise, are probably going to get into on the Monday download.
Yeah,
lots of
We'll
exciting
talk about
stuff
it
in
more.
there, though. Yeah. But the interesting thing here, and the thing we want to talk about, is the gaming side of the news that came out yesterday, which is that, on top of, native VR games, which obviously PSVR 2 is going to have, the company Sony is also kind of focusing on the idea of AAA games that have kind of... So think about like Resident Evil 7 is a AAA game that has this kind of like thrown in VR support. It's quite well done, but it's optional. It's not fully native. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that with PSVR 2. That's their way of doing of getting more AAA developers over to the platform. Zeena, you're here again.
Hello.
How you
Oh,
doing?
turn that on up. Yeah, I'm good. How are you? I just need a little break there, apparently. Lost
Just took a
Wi-Fi
kick for a
for
bit.
a sec.
So I just explained what's going on in terms of the AAA stuff. How did you want to phrase the question, Zeena? Because you want to kick the conversation off the Zeena way.
Yeah, so when Jamie and I were talking over this story, we got into a little bit of a discussion on what the direction was exactly that like Sony was going in. The question that I actually had lined up was, does this mean Sony's focus is shifting from VR native games to VR supported games? So that's mainly for AAA games, but what does it mean for like, the native VR games? Are we going to have our Iron Mans? Are we going to have our Winds and Leaves and stuff like that? Or are they going to kind of shift more towards it being a flat screen game with support?
I wanted to ask about Spider-Man here. I got to bring up Spider-Man. We joked, I think, on a previous podcast about that being a vomit simulator right there. But I'm curious if your opinion has changed there, Jamie, having this sort of news that they're going to push this kind of like cross approach. We've talked about this on other podcasts where John Carmack over at Facebook has made the comments that they could implement like a system-wide simulator sickness mitigation policy where they could get developers on board and start sort of doing the vignetting of your screen whenever you get really into high motion scenarios, and that could really help with people with simulator sickness. And there's other things they could do alongside that. Sony is in a very, very good position to do the same thing over on their side, and especially with all of their studios. If they had been in front of this by a couple of years and sort of set down these policies that when we get to the next generation PlayStation, you're going to need to support VR and you're going to need to implement these strategies, they could be out in the lead there in a significant way. We obviously don't know if they've actually done that, but I guess again, Spider-Man, Jamie, that's your dream game. Are we going to get Spider-Man going cross devices?
Yeah, that's the interesting one, right? Because it's Insomniac, and the Insomniac do have the experience, and also, I mean, the thing that, to go back to the hardware angle, is that I'm really fascinated to learn what that head-mounted motor vibration haptic feedback system that they've talked about, or we revealed. I'm really interested to see what effect that's going to have, right? Like, that's not something we've really actually explored in terms of comfort yet, and from patents and stuff we've seen, Sony's exploring that specifically from a comfort angle. So we don't really have a way of telling if that's going to be effective or anything yet. We might put it on our heads whenever it's finally revealed and think that's actually a revelation and you can do pretty much whatever you want in VR right now, or it might need more of those kind of system-wide software things that you're talking about. I
was going to say, we got a little hardware question here. Thank you so much, Joey Bat33, for the super chat. Much appreciated. They asked, your educated guess PSVR 2 price. This is going to be good for Ian. 399.99 cents or more.
That's a really good question. It's so early. I think given that the controllers are probably bundled with it and they're going to be pretty pricey, like I think there's going to be a lot of tech in those controllers, and we know that the DualSense are pretty expensive on their own. Aren't they 70?
Yeah, I think they're 70, maybe 60, but I think they're at least
I tricked him. See, he rounded the price.
Oh. Sorry, I meant $59.99.
Got him.
There may be $59.99. The way you talk and the way you write is different. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that $400 price is a good guess there, but the fact that the two controllers are probably going to have the haptic pushback triggers, that could be a lot of price in there. We know how expensive it is for the index controllers. I think they're going to go for a premium feel and all this stuff. But
Artful thinks it's $999.99
all in. So
all
the console as well.
Yeah.
But that would mean
the camera. No, you don't need the camera for this one.
That would mean 400. So the cheapest PS5 is 450 without the disc drive, right? And the more expensive PS5 is 500 with the disc drive. So that would mean PSVR 2 would either be 550 or 500. I don't see them going that. Yeah, I don't see them going that far. I think you can't. I don't think you can justify the peripheral being more expensive than the console. So I think it kind of has to be 400. And maybe they can match and say 450 and do 900 all in cheapest options, but I think it's probably 400. Getting back to the software and Spider-Man and all that, this is the really interesting question at the heart of this debate of, on paper, reading this stuff is very exciting, right? Like Sony saying, well, if we approach AAA developers and say, get VR support into your game, rather than saying, okay, make an all new version of, a Fallout or Halo. No, not Halo. That's literally the worst example you could use for a PlayStation.
The PlayStation exclusive.
Are we going to get Grand Theft Auto in VR?
Well, so there you go, right? Like, yeah, exactly. Going over to Red Dead and saying remaster Red Dead 2 for PS5 and get VR support in there and stuff like that. That's all really, really exciting. The debate at the heart of it, though, is that doesn't get you games like Boneworks, which are really at the heart of VR design right now. Of, Yeah, sure. We might be able to get, like, let's say Deathloop is coming out next month on PS5. Looks really, really cool. We might be able to get a version of Deathloop where you suddenly have your hands in the experience. You can aim, you can use all your powers, you can meet characters face to face, and all of that's really cool and really, really enhanced. But you're not going to then get a version of Deathloop where you can pick up a crowbar, like hook it onto a ledge and like pull yourself up.
We
with
are
a
going to get
crowbar and stuff
Boneworks.
like
I think that they're already out there saying that they were very, very likely to support the next generation. Like everything was there for Boneworks to be there.
So yeah, you are going to get Boneworks 100% on the console, on the headset. It's just about when you're talking about where Sony's going to put its focus and where it's going to put its funding. Is it going to be on those experiences? Is there going to be any money for those experiences that are really pushing VR design forward, or is it going to be more on the end of your Resident Evil 7s, your Skyrim VRs, and everything like that, which are great, fun things for building an ecosystem and creating buzzwords and getting players in, which is absolutely fantastic. And those are some of my favorite VR experiences. But Boneworks and stuff is that, the bleeding edge of VR and actually touching on what's new that you can't do without the headset and without the motion controllers. And so what I'm really interested to see is Sony gonna continue with some sort of budget for native VR experiences that do keep pushing it forward, like Blood and Truth? Or are they more interested in going back to London studio and saying, okay, now Blood and Truth 2 has to be on both flat screen and in PSVR, and like that's fine. That's going to work for two audiences. But is that where we're going to see, the medium pushed forward, and we're gonna get closer to those kind of really fleshed out Boneworks kinds of experiences? That's the thing I'm concerned about by this. And that's a relatively pessimistic view, because at the same time, absolutely, please do go to, Rockstar and say, all right, what can we do to get Red Dead working in VR? What can we do to get the PS5 version of GTA working
People
in VR?
say we went black. People say we went dark.
Oh, but could you hear us?
Oh, it's not showing up on the screen, so give me a second there.
Are we audible?
Stop it and restart it.
Cast this.
Everyone else.
Bada bing, bada boom. All fixed.
Is that good? We're back?
Yep. I can see it here, yeah.
Did we lose any audio, or is it just a black screen?
No, we got our audio. It was just a little black screen. It wasn't us blacked out. It was the TV. Cool. Stevie's being a right little so-and-so, isn't he? He's horrid. He's horrid lately.
So yeah, that's where my mind is at with this. And to Ian's point, yes, I want the Spider-Mans as well. Like, even if it is a vomit fest, I want that. It's just about where we're going in terms of the big money VR games publishers actually pushing the boundaries of VR forward, rather than just catering towards the gaming edge, if you know what I mean.
And I don't know about the Vomit Fest thing is such an interesting thing, because I'm still convinced that they can do some. I'm still convinced they can like give you a range of options there to let you go into third person at some moments and let you go into first person when you want to, and maybe adjust how often you want to be in first person. And I don't know. I know Spider-Man does a lot of flips in the air when he's showing off, but maybe you don't have to do that. Maybe you can just get the swinging in VR and really get that pulling action down. I just think it would be so. It's so like imagining that DualSense trigger with those triggers there of being able to like pull in and pull the real tension down on the spider webs as you're flying down. It's hard to me imagine someone at Insomniac not exploring that and not really trying to dev that out with Sony's hardware and figure out a way for it to work is the way I kind of like imagine it.
Well, and especially in Insomniac's case, because Stormland was that game that was all about different modes of traversal in VR, right? And gliding and going really, really fast and climbing all about. They have been focused on that for a long time, and it does seem like Spider-Man would be a natural evolution. I mean, the other thing is, I can't think of a more exciting way to kick off your marketing campaign for PSVR 2, aside from the whole Alex thing, which we mention every time, that, you know, if they get Alex onto PSVR 2, that's going to be a huge
confirmed.
Going to be a huge win for them.
I love that. Think about timing here. All right, I got to talk about timing. We're going into the holiday season, and I think in some of this, in the report yesterday, they were suggesting like an announcement early next year. I think, right?
Yeah,
I think I saw that.
First launch details is what they said. So it might even be that we still hear some stuff this year, but nothing about actual release. Go ahead. Well, my mind is that if you look at traditional kind of, like, even if you take the PS5 launch last year as a basis, COVID notwithstanding, what you're meant to do is kind of use GDC as kind of the time to start educating a few more developers than the selected few that you've already been working with, and then you're building up to E3, which is where you start to kind of talk more. Maybe you've had an event, a public facing event before then. E3 is kind of around the time you're doing the real hype stuff, because that's what they did in 2016, right? They had a bit more information at GDC, and then they had the E3 show where they revealed, you know, Batman and Resident Evil 7 and everything like that. And then it was just 3 months after that, the thing was launching, and they gave you the price and the date and everything like that. So that's, in my mind, that's how the template's going to go next year, is around GDC time. So March-ish time is when we should really be looking out for our first proper information.
So the reason I wanted to bring up timing there was just, you've got this situation we talked about in our last show where we really dived into the fact that we think it's very, very, very likely that Oculus Quest has now outsold the PlayStation VR. So up to January 2020, we knew that Sony had crossed over into 5 million plus, and I don't think we've gotten an update since then. But it's going to be, this is the end of the life cycle of that original hardware, so it's not going to sell a ton of devices after that initial 5 million. And we can kind of guess that Quest is probably somewhere in the range of 6 to 8 million, probably closer to 6 million total when you consider the original Quest in there, as well as somewhere around 5 million, 4 to 5 million of the Quest 2s out there. So we're thinking Quest has crossed over into this king of VR territory. They're going to be the largest VR selling platform heading into the holiday season. That's before, again, the holiday season, where there's nothing else on the market except for Reverb G2, some Vive products that are marketed more toward businesses,
and cost a bomb,
and the Valve Index still there on the market. So you've got Quest heading into just an open season for itself, with Resident Evil 4 coming out, and starting at the end of August here, they're going to have a double storage device that starts at only $100, at the same price as the original device, so $299, $300. They could potentially double their user base before Sony actually gets out there early next year. And I can't imagine if Valve and Sony really want to team up, just put out a video. Just give us a week warning to tell us that you're going to reveal a bunch of stuff about the PSVR 2.
Give us some hope.
Yeah, and say Alex is coming and some other big game is coming, and you're going to stop probably 1 million people from going out and getting a Quest this holiday season just by doing that.
Yeah, so back to that point, and that's exactly right. And I would love to see that this year. You know, there's this whole talk of when Sony's going to come out with their kind of E3 level event this year, if they're going to do it, and, you know, talk about Horizon more and talk about God of War more. And that's the perfect time to put those things in as like this far-flung future excitement hype announcement. And to that point, what other better 2 games to include alongside Alex than Resident Evil 8 and Gran Turismo 7? Gran Turismo 7 is arguably, I think, like just as important as Alex in terms of getting it out there with full support, and just to easily have, you know, the biggest, most full-fledged VR supported driving simulator out there. Yeah, obviously there's Project Cars 3, but that support's kind of on PC and isn't as fully fleshed out as you'd like to see. So I agree. Yeah, I agree with your point, Ian. It's just, you know, Sony hasn't been doing that big, massive hype, far-flung future announcement kind of stuff for a while now. You know, it dropped out of E3 several years ago now. I think after it had that really incredible, again, the PlayStation VR show in 2016, which I think you were in the audience for, right? Yeah, and Zeena, you were in LA, but you weren't in the audience.
Oh yeah.
And then it kind of like started falling out of love with E3, if you were. Like, it came back a couple of times and the shows weren't as strong. And since then, it's been like aping the Nintendo Direct strategy, but it hasn't had quite the same level of success, in my opinion. So yeah, in my mind, yeah, you should be doing that this year, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to be doing it as like, okay, 2022's here, now go, and like charge straight ahead towards October or November. But I agree with you again. I agree with you that that's what I would like to see them do, is what I think they should do, and it would help them in this battle against Quest. But I also think they kind of realize that, you know, they're not going to win a battle against Quest because it's a peripheral and it's going to be more expensive. Zeena, sorry, you're raising your hand.
Oh, it's okay. Just a little. I can't like look you in the eye. So Chris Richardson, in response to Ian, said, you would love to see VR sales stall. What the hell, guys? Well, actually, it's more, we would love to see PSVR 2 absolutely like storm its way, like in the start of its sales. Rather than people kind of giving up and thinking, well, I don't really know what I'm going to get from PSVR 2. That's the thing. Quest isn't the VR, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the be-all, end-all. It's like if I were just a consumer and I'd heard about PSVR 2, but there wasn't really that much out there like to kind of convince me, I would probably go for Quest 2. But if I had more info on the games and the sorts of things that I could get, PSVR 2, I'm really, really hoping is going to be my go-to headset, because it's going to have minimal wires. It's set up right in front of my sofa, and they're going to have great games, I hope. They have a great track record.
Maybe I misrepresented that, but when I'm saying 1 million people are going to stop buying Quest 2, it's because they're saving up for PSVR 2. That's what that was the other part of that sentence, I guess I didn't really say, that you're going to want people buying a wide variety of devices, and right now there is no other option other than a Quest 2. So we recommend left and right, if you want to get into VR, that's your option. Go get it now. That's $300. You're in. You've got access to the PSVR library. If you've got a gaming PC capable of running it, no brainer. Go do it. But right now, we've got absolutely no advice we can give to anyone that, you know, there's anything else to wait for. There's anything else to consider into your. And I wouldn't even, like, it's not going to overnight change our advice saying don't go get a Quest 2 because PSVR 2 is coming. It's not going to be like that. It would be something like, hey, this is something else to consider here that's going to be pretty important in your long run thinking. But still, you're going to have a great purchase and get Resident Evil 4 and this incredible amount of storage. Like, don't oversimplify what we're saying here. It's always a complex buying decision. But yeah, if you look at the market right now, it's just simply open season for Facebook. There is no competition. And we can't tell people to consider something that's coming a year and a half out with no announced titles for it.
Yeah, exactly. And there was just this whole conversation in the VR industry at large about, you know, the state of PC VR and everything like that as well. And it's we are getting to the point where people are asking me. I would say in the past like 2 or 3 weeks, I've had people, maybe
even today,
maybe 3 people. Yeah, even today, someone's asked me like, what headset should I be getting? And it's like, well, I really can't say anything other than Quest. So
through gritted teeth,
I'm
sort of thing.
And I hate the gritted teeth thing. Like, the Facebook account is such a divisive issue for our audience, right? Like, I loved your headline. I mean, Jamie, I think, nailed his review of Quest 2 when it originally came out. What was the actual headline? Do you remember it verbatim?
The new king of VR. If you like Facebook, if you can stand,
if you don't
Facebook,
mind Facebook,
if you don't mind Facebook, there you go. Yeah.
And that just summarizes the whole thing. Like, if there's plenty of people out there that gets they don't mind Facebook, or they do mind Facebook. It doesn't matter. Like in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't consume their whole life. So they're willing to use their Facebook account for that, and they don't put much information into it. So it's not a big deal. So at least in their view, in the short term, maybe they're not thinking on the 5 to 10 year term when these things have a little docket of our souls stored in them.
It's like when like the person you hate comes and compliments you, and you're like, "Oh, I hate you, but thank you. I'm gonna accept it. I'm not gonna turn this down."
But that's I mean, that's one reason I can't wait for this thing. I can't wait to report on a headset without so many complications behind it and so much. Because I mean, last week we were an hour into the podcast, and you said, "Okay, another Facebook thing. Sorry, guys." And it's like, that's just where all the and that's what we're saying week in, week out. And I can't wait for PSVR 2 for several reasons. One of them being, the lack of that complication. Obviously, I'm sure as a company, Sony is not, incredibly like on a moral high ground or anything like that. But we're not wading into that really deep territory every time we're talking about a facet of the company. And then also, it is this idea of the games, the potentially pushing VR production values beyond what we can get on Quest, obviously. And people were saying, because of that, like PSVR 2 is going to crush Quest or something like that. That I just don't. That's not going to happen. I think Sony knows that more than anyone, because back when they announced this at the start of the year, the CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Jim Ryan, said that, and there's a very, very important quote that I've been thinking about all year. He said, "I think we'll do good business with this upcoming headset, but beyond that, we see a lot of potential in VR," which to me is saying, this next thing, we're going to do the best job we can do with it. But it's still a console peripheral. Like Kinect on Xbox 360 is viewed as an incredibly successful thing. It sold like 10 million or something like that. But it's only ever going to sell a fraction of the actual console install base. So it's definitely not going to be able to compete with Quest. But that's going to be enough for Sony right now until, potentially we get to see like a standalone PlayStation headset, maybe that replaces the idea of a standalone PlayStation handheld or something like that.
So do we have Guy in our comments? We usually have Guy Godin on our comments on Monday's show. But
Guy, make yourself known.
Oh,
yourself.
We have Guy, flicking your
just
hair.
Comes through
it's
a door
no
behind
big
you.
deal.
the creator of Virtual Desktop. But I want to go back to that kind of. I've kind of put this question to him every like 3 months, just like ask him, Are you going to take a job at Valve? Are you gonna get hired at Valve? Are you gonna go work for Valve and put your product into because that would be an interesting sort of like it would force some very uncomfortable conversations between how these platforms work. If you kind of turned Virtual Desktop into the Steam app on Oculus Quest, it would force some. It would do nothing more than make this platform war a little bit more interesting. But Sony, getting Sony on board and him going to Sony or building that product for Sony. Again, Sony can spend a couple of years developing their own, but having that wireless connection between the next generation after PSVR 2 and have a standalone connection between the PS5 and the standalone is going to be a natural next step. And you need a developer like Guy or do it yourself to make that possible.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think he's going to Valve though, because they're probably going to be busy trying to catch up on Steam Deck orders for the next like 5 years. So,
all right. So the majority, all the show has just been talking about this. Shall we move on? Because we've got like 3 or 4 other stories.
Let's talk about Facebook some more. That's what you're doing, Zeena?
Yeah, please no more Facebook. My brain. All right, we're gonna move on because I think we've all let our thoughts be known.
Our thoughts be known.
Let's cool on down with some nice news that we can all just agree on. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Aftershocks update has a new release date, September 23rd. This comes after it being delayed last minute due to there just being so much to do, updating it on all platforms at once. Hopefully that's going to play. Yep. Is it playing? It is. Aftershocks is Saints and Sinners' free upcoming update that adds new endgame content, including new missions, threats, and story elements. And it will focus on high level play for those who have built up their survival skills and arsenals. So it's for you diehards out there. Jamie, I remember you saying that you were just itching for more story content. Is this gonna scratch that itch?
Yeah, I'm like super ready to go back to Aftershocks because this was such a long delay. It was, yeah, like you said, it was originally meant to be out in like late May, and they said, oh, it might be delayed by a few weeks, and now it's not going to be till September. So obviously, a lot more than a few weeks. And it's I say this week in, week out on this podcast. We just had this really great free hit combo of Boneworks, Walking Dead, Alex. And we haven't got back to that kind of physics driven action since then. And I was hoping, by now we would have new games that would have drawn from those free. And obviously it hasn't been 2 years, and it takes like at least 2 years to develop something of, Walking Dead's size and scale. And I'm also, like getting on for nearly 2 years on from Saints and Sinners release. I was kind of hoping by now we might have heard about a sequel, but it sounds like there's more to come from this original version first, and that's okay with me. There's still a lot to do. The great thing about Saints and Sinners is it's really cool emergent gameplay, and you have a different experience and have different stories to tell every time you get in there. And I just can't wait for them to keep playing with that formula and going back to existing maps, but changing enemy positions, changing like friendly NPC positions, making people run into each other when maybe they don't get on and they get into fights and stuff like that. I can't wait to just get back into all of that, and on Quest as well, because I haven't been able to I've played a good amount on Quest, but I haven't done all of it on Quest, and that's where I want to be to get all of the turning, no wires and everything like that in this version of the game. I've played where I played Saints and Sinners was PSVR, and I really really enjoyed it on PSVR. But obviously you're fighting the move controllers, and I want to go back and play it on Quest with a bit of a smoother experience.
Ian, have you played Saints and Sinners?
I got started on it, got a little too scared, and
that's fine. There seems to be a conversation of, I suppose this might be down to the moving of this release date. This versus After the Fall. People saying, nah, I'm into After the Fall more. Or, I didn't actually expect that to be a thing, but that seems to be an issue for some people.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I think After the Fall is certainly going to scratch an itch for a lot of people in terms of co-op shooter return to gameplay. And I think, I do think it's going to be a big deal, especially on Quest. I think it's going to be very, very, very popular. But, for me,
back to back in a zombie shooter, like that's a completely different prospect to me. Like being able to have a friend in there with your back, that's completely different than what Saints and Sinners is.
No, and it is completely different. I would consider After the Fall, but and I played it 2 years ago now. I would consider it much more of an arcadey experience, that fast firing thing, akin to Arizona Sunshine to some degree. Whereas Saints and Sinners, going back to the PSVR 2 conversation and talking about like Boneworks being at the bleeding edge, Saints and Sinners is right there with it in many ways, and the physical combat there is what's so engaging, and that's one of my favorite things in VR at the end of the day, that physical combat in that game. Whereas After the Fall is going to deliver more of your traditional thrills that people have been hoping for a long time in VR. So, and plus it's a free update, so I don't really see them as massively competing.
It's a free update. However, this free update, the fact that it's going to be expanding it more, could be a selling point for people who don't have it and are thinking, should I get it? Oh, okay, there's more stuff to it. That is a much smaller percentage, a far smaller percentage than those thinking, should I buy After the Fall or not? But yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm kind of similar to Ian. I started off Saints and Sinners, and then I think I freaked myself out mentally way more than what I needed to. And then, a bad guy came and I was like, okay, I could do this. But then I was like, no, I cannot. Zeena, stop lying.
It's not that hard, is the thing.
It's not. It's like I can't play any Resident Evil games, really, because I freak myself out mentally too much.
True.
Yeah, did you play through Resident Evil in VR?
Yes. I did the first half of the game in VR, which actually, and then I did the second half on a flat screen because I was kind of done with scaring the crap out of myself, basically. But ironically, the second half of the game is far less scary, so I kind of wish I'd gone back. But there is a very famous story early on in the days of Jamie and Zeena where I emitted the highest pitch, most pathetic
it was like a little
scream.
schoolgirl. I've never heard that before or since, and that was back. What year was that? Like
2016.
2016. 2017. I was, just watching you play something.
There was a leech monster in the corner of the room that I didn't expect to be there, so I just kind of shifted my head around.
Daniel, thank you for the donation, Daniel, saying I need to hold someone's hands in those games. I'm kind of like the same way. I need to have someone there to scream at. If I'm there alone in my house. I saw someone comment on this. Do you ever get, I think it was on Reddit or somewhere, but people saying, do you ever get the feeling that you're being watched when you're inside the headset? Like it's an extra eerie feeling if you're kind of like on your own. Yeah.
I'm shameless when it comes to VR. I kind of feel like I'm just by myself. I'm not being watched. Yeah. There's a window behind me right now, and neighbors walk past all the time, so they're definitely looking at me right now, but I just completely don't care.
Yeah, whereas meanwhile, I pulled the blinds in this room.
Yeah.
So that's very true, actually, yeah.
But yeah, Daniel, thank you so much again. I don't want to hold anyone's hands. I just want to rip the headset off. That's it.
I will say, though, After the Fall is probably the big holiday game, right? Like, there's Resident Evil 1 on Quest as well.
Yeah.
But apart from that, everything else has kind of been front-loaded into summer. So, we've got Fracked and we've got I Expect You to Die 2 and Lone Echo. It's Resident Evil and After the Fall is the two that I would put back-to-back and say those are the ones competing this holiday period. And I think After the Fall went out probably because Resident Evil 4 has been released so many times.
Yeah, do you know what I was thinking? We put out the August games for the month, and I was like, okay, this is fine, put it out at the beginning of the month. But there are so many games that I said to come out in summer, and they're going to be announced one by one, aren't they? Like once we've released this list. And thinking about holiday season, we don't have any idea of what's going to come out because people don't like announcing stuff until it's actually here. That's the kind of the theme with all these VR games.
That goes back to the topic of how much control over the Quest store Facebook has, and when they leak release dates on the mobile version of the app, but then the developer isn't allowed to actually announce them 2 days before the game releases and things of that nature.
Big old shame.
Yeah,
but cool. Yep, go for it. Last little comment.
And never mind.
Before we move,
just go on.
No, a disposable thought.
Yep.
All right. Next up, Population 1's next season has been announced, and this time there's going to be 11 whole weeks of free events under one central theme: Kingdom Age. So they're going to go from cowboy to medieval. It looks that looks way cooler. I kind of poo-pooed a lot of the cowboy stuff. This looks really cool. There will be a bunch of free additions like a new melee weapon, Excalibur, which you can see right here. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
There are going to be skins. There's going to be a gallant costume for the main blue jacket guy, PJ. And there will be changes to the map as well, of course.
Sorry. Matthew May just gave us an excellent Canadian $10 tip, which thank you very much for, and just said, money. Canadian money. Who knows how much that really was? Maybe it was just a couple of cents, really.
You could say it's mon, eh? Anyway.
You could say money.
Thank you so much, Matthew May. Really appreciate that. Absolute boy. You're on the list of absolute boys now. So yeah, a game the map change, is
like
a staple anyway. Map change is pretty staple for these new themes. Anyway, however, for $5, there's going to be a chance to earn other cosmetics too. So, kind of like Fortnite, where it's largely free, but you can have extras. Yeah. Do you guys think that this was always planned, that they would go from having paid for battle passes to going into this free season? Or do you think this is a direct change now that Big Box is owned by Facebook? And please answer without using the word metaverse. Go.
Oh my God.
I know where Ian's mind is going to go.
I think they want population 1 in your bedroom. I think, I definitely, I don't know if it's directly connected to them being bought by Facebook so much as maybe this is some sort of response to the feedback they've had from 2 seasons of Battle Passes, right? And the whole thing about Population 1 is that it so closely apes Fortnite in everything, apart from the fact that you have to pay to get into the game first, and Fortnite is just free to download,
which they could change, right? I mean, they could change now that they're on. They definitely could.
There's plenty of Quest apps that already have gone from paid to free. Something like FitXR already did that. So that could be on the cards, right? And so what this says to me, and I haven't had any official comment on this either way, is that maybe those first 2 battle passes maybe haven't gone the way they were kind of hoping they would, and maybe they want to kind of double back and say, actually, if we throw free things at the players, people are going to see more value in spending that initial, whatever it is, like $15 to $20 on getting into the game in the first place. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's probably a smart move as a kind of like taking a step back and saying, okay, we've tried the Fortnite thing and maybe we'll return to it, but let's for now just have 11 weeks of focusing on giving back to everyone that's already committed, and also having all these great reasons for people to jump in and get some unique content as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. I personally think it could be a Facebook encouraged thing. That it's all about accessibility and getting people into the games. Of course, a Fortnite way of just getting them in there, and it's like, well, I'm so into this game, I'll chuck $5 towards it. And it's definitely going to be an ad target this game. I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's a very good point. And the other thing is, obviously, being owned by Facebook is going to open them up to the things that Fortnite does so well, of having Ariana Grande just appear in the game this weekend and stuff. They're going to now be able to pursue that kind of stuff. If that's of interest to them, and say, what tie-ins can we get going? Let's do the thing that every game does and get Rambo and Terminator in there and stuff like that. So maybe they're taking a step back as well and saying, the next couple of battle passes, we actually don't need them anymore because we can pursue bigger and better themes with Facebook's funding. So that might be an angle to it as well.
I'm really sorry, chat. I just triggered you by mentioning ads. There will be no ads ever. I swear. Just instantly up comes in. No ads. I swear.
Resolution Games pulling out of the ads meant that Facebook bought Population 1. They were like, all right, DEFCON 5 or whatever it is. Bought it, and they were like, all right, now you just walk in and it's just all the textures in the game have just been replaced with adverts for soup.
You just have Monster energy drinks instead of whatever they have. They have the what's the banana brand?
Bananas?
No.
Chiquita? Bananas in pajamas?
Yeah. That one. Yeah.
Oh.
They're just gonna have those stickers everywhere. Anyway, enough on Population 1. Bless you.
I laughed. That was a weird laugh. That was
okay.
Okay.
Snorty, forced laugh.
Snoddy baloddy.
A snively laugh.
Last comments on Population 1. You done with it?
I'm
I don't
done
want to
with
talk
it.
about Population 1. It makes
All
me
right,
sick.
goodbye, Population 1. And going back to us talking about After the Fall, its developer Vertigo Games is buying up Amsterdam-based studio Forcefield, who you may know from their most recent game, Time Stall, or non-gaming experiences like Anne Frank House VR and National Geographic Explore VR. They will now be known as Vertigo Amsterdam. That sounds pretty nice to me. I like that. This is actually the second studio that Vertigo Games has acquired since being bought up itself by Koch Media, the previous studio being location-based VR developer Springboard VR. You can kind of... I thought of this earlier. I was like, it's kind of like a Russian doll thing. An aqua Russian doll thing.
It really is.
I've been bought, so I'm going to buy others and then inside of my arsenal.
Koch itself isn't like a subsidiary of something called Emblematic Group that own like Deep Silver and stuff like that as well. So it really is a Russian dog. Yeah,
Isn't that?
And everyone is
maybe
the journalism VR effort.
Oh no, heavens no, definitely not. That. No one in journalism has that much money. Ian, come on.
And everyone is owned by Tencent. Anyway,
yeah, basically.
Not only is Vertigo
6 degrees
getting
of separation to Tencent.
yeah, it's Facebook, Tencent. Not only are they getting the studio, but they are also getting the unannounced AAA game based on a well-known IP that they've been working on. Seeing as Vertigo Games has been working on After the Fall for so long, do you think they had this in their sights? Buying up Forcefield to then line up their next big game without them putting all of those years into it?
Yeah, I wonder what scale. It said in the press release, it said, Forcefield's currently working on a AAA VR game based on a well-known brand, but you can use the term AAA very, very liberally, and I would apply it to something of the scale of After the Fall, but nothing Forcefield has done so far has been of that scale. So Time Stall was fun, but probably about 2 hours worth of puzzling, and then some of the experiences they did again were really, really cool, but on the smaller side, some cool partnerships with National Geographic and stuff like that. So I don't know if they're actually at the scale to actually live up to a full AAA, something on the scale of After the Fall right now. Having said that, I'm very excited to see what it was. We hadn't heard from Forcefield for a while, and they've been around for a long time. And I think they do good, interesting work. And it's just interesting to see Vertigo at large grow into this real force. Kind of still...
Here we go.
Obviously, they got bought by Koch, but obviously still kind of off the back of what's going on. All we've got is
this is Anne Frank. One of their things.
I see it. Do you not see it?
Okay, I don't see it. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, now I see it. Anyway, it's interesting to see Vertigo grow, especially seeing as, like you said, After the Fall's been in the works for so long, and really the only self-developed game they still have to their name is Arizona, which was late 2016, I think it released. So yeah, it's still watch this space for Vertigo. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all works out.
Heaney I'm assuming it's Heaney. Of course it's Heaney. Thank you, Heaney. Heaney. Vertigo. Vertigo's grandparent company is Embracer Group.
Sorry.
So not that. I mean, it's very easy to forget these silent corporations that just own everything and just don't, put their names on anything.
They're very similar names.
Yeah. Anyway, our final story is that I Expect You to Die 2 is this month's Upload Access game. If you don't know what Upload Access is, it's our spotlight month-long event where we get exclusive deep dives with some of the top upcoming games. We've previously had Fract, Sniper Elite VR, Wraith the Oblivion Afterlife, and Mask Maker. So it's a pretty good title to add to our little collection. Here we go. We've got the schedule here for all of the exclusive content that we're going to be releasing. So we've split it up into weeks. The first week, we've got new gameplay with developer commentary. Week 2, we've got concept art and prototypes. Week 3, we've got actual Jesse Shell. What are you doing here?
Actual
okay,
Jesse
that's fine.
Shell.
Actual Jesse Shell, the CEO of Shell Games.
Not that fake stuff.
The real stuff, given a retrospective on their VR development. We're also going to have a live studio Q&A with a developer from Shell Games. I can't remember who exactly, but it's someone very interesting. And week 4 about the accessibility of their games.
You're gonna get a Shell Games dev into the studio.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be Charlie and me, the project director of
There we go.
of the sequel. So that's going to be good. And then the game itself is out on August 24th. We talked about it last week, I think, and Ian is going to be reviewing that one. So that will arrive through the later through the month. I'm really looking forward to sitting down with Jesse Shell again because he's just always so fascinating to interview with, and doing a retrospective, not just on the first I Expect You to Die and Until You Fall, but then also the educational stuff they've done, the very, very early VR work they did with games like Water Bears and stuff like that. At least I think it was called Water Bears, but not like.
Well, isn't that from
it's not
Sam
the
and Max?
No, Water Bears are a real thing, Zeena. It's
Yeah, I know they are.
And then it's not from Sam and Max. But yeah,
tardigrades.
Cool.
Tardigrades.
And that's
Tartar what?
Tardigrades. That's a water.
Is that
bear.
what the tiny things are? Okay.
Yeah.
They're even smaller than this. You can't even see them. If you're watching, water bears are all around us, but they're so small.
Don't Google them. They're kind of freaky and weird looking.
No, I like water bears.
I'm not a
There's a
big
bunch of
fan
people
of them.
just afraid to touch their water after watching our show.
Wait, is it in water?
What?
Oh my god!
Move on. Let's
know.
embargo on strides up. Move on.
Anyway. Cool. So yeah, check out UploadVR.com for all the future stuff. I'm never drinking water again. Let's move on to our impressions and reviews. So you may have tuned into our Warplanes WW1 Fighters stream earlier this week, where Jamie and Ian took to the skies to try out the new Quest. It's new to Quest, and I think it's already on PSVR game. And Ian will be giving his official impressions ahead of his review. There's a review yet to come, but Ian, take it.
Yes, I'm blown away by this. It's a really great experience. Jamie and I were already sort of talking about where we would land on a review. I'm definitely in the camp that this is a great game. Surprising that it's able to pull this off on the Quest standalone system. You've got deathmatch or co-op. You can sync up with a friend across Steam or Oculus Quest, and that alone, it's on our list today that we just published of best crossplay games. This is already on there with a lot of other great things. Go to UploadVR.com to check that list of things you can go and download on Steam or on Quest, and then get up with a friend and play together. And I love that list so much because it's just pointing out these things that it doesn't matter kind of what headset you've got. You can go in and get in them together. All right, so this game, you've got your guns, you've got flares, and you've got bombs. And I ended up falling in love with the fact that you could go to any of these three things at any given time and use them to attack in quite a range of ways. So you're obviously pointing your plane around most of the time directly at enemy planes, and you learn that the different enemies in the skies here have different things about them. There's certain planes will have a gunner pointed back at you, so you kind of have to come at them from an odd angle to get at them. Then you've got these zeppelins here that you can fire your flare at and take out, and then you can go and grab the bombs, and your plane tilts to the side and shows you where it's going to land down below, and so you just grab this bomb and boop, bye-bye. Boop, bye-bye.
Bada bing, bada boom.
And you've got all this instrumentation up here to tell you who you're going to have to attack. And in some of these cases, you end up facing off quite a few enemies floating in the air against you. And let me throw this up there. I'm just kind of blown away by the number of modes in this game. So I can only handle, really for any length of time, the leisure mode. If I go down to some of the crazier modes, let's see if I uploaded that. So it goes all the way to simulation, and then there's real war. Flying is calculated like in simulation mode. Takeoffs and landings are enabled. Advanced AI, which normal AI can already be pretty tough. And then all heads-up display elements are hidden. There's no aiming dots nor plane markers. You have to recognize planes by their shapes and paintings.
Oh my God.
This is as close to a real experience as you get. So I went into that, and in the sort of leisure mode, the plane it limits how much the plane can tilt, and that actually had a really significant effect on my comfort levels. When you go to real war, you're tilting really far, and can get sick pretty fast. They've got great comfort options in this game, which is an absolute must-have for a flying game. But yeah, this is missing some storytelling elements that would make it a more compelling campaign, would kind of like bring you into the story more. But honestly, I'm not sure if you're looking for a flying game, you really care about that. Just get me in to my cockpit and let me fly and blow some people up. And we talked about this in our stream. This game is so good at creating these cinematic moments where you've got a plane falling down to the ground in smoke and exploding when it hits, and then you've got zeppelins over here, and your wingman is flying overhead, and just all these beautiful moments all really do come together in this game for an incredible experience. You've got lots of different planes to choose from, and then you've obviously got multi people planes. So you can actually have a gunner in your front seat, and you can have a gunner in your back seat. And as I found out with Jamie flying around in the air, I got sick pretty fast when I handed over basically the controls of the plane to him. There's even this one feature here. Let's see if I have it in my screenshots. Did I upload it? I had the controls here. But you can either do immersive controls where you're actually holding the stick and the throttle and adjusting it by pulling forward and pulling back, and then adjusting your direction. And I played that way for quite a long time, and I think it probably helps a little bit with simulator sickness to take some of that mental load off and let you like actually feel like you're steering the plane with your movements. And over time, I finally did switch, because that can be kind of tiring, to using the sticks. And you can use the sticks in the same way. So forward and back on the left stick, and then use the directions on your right stick. And you can fly the plane just with your hands in your lap that way. And you can even grab the flare gun and continue to direct the ship with the sticks while basically pointing a gun at these other planes in the sky. And so there's nothing quite like feeling like you're steering the ship around and then firing a gun at the plane floating next to you and having it go down because you shot it out of midair, like with a gun, and then also shooting another plane, going at tracking another plane and dogfighting them. Really, really great. It's just I'm really impressed. I do think it's probably going to end up falling short of Essential, just because of some of that missing campaign elements that I think could really be polished in order to give kind of like that must-have experience. But again, if you're looking for flight simulation right now, this is going to get you really far along to everything you want out of a flying experience in VR. So I've been really impressed, and can't wait to see what these developers do in the future. This game very quickly went from I think it was on SideQuest to App Lab to Store in record time, almost, I would say. And I think given the fact that there's not a lot of other things you can do in VR at this scale, I'm hoping it has really good sales, and we get to see some sequels to this that really polish out some of those things that we're missing here.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head with what you were saying there, and I guess the thing I would add to it is, you were talking about all these great options for comfort and stuff like that. And I would just add that, typically when it comes to these kinds of experiences, I feel kind of intimidated about getting into them because, there's going to be this kind of level of a hardcore element, right? Like, there's going to be people that will pride themselves on playing on the real war setting all the time, but not just in terms of comfort, but in terms of accessibility. This goes right the way through the scale to the point where if you want like a little reticle on the screen to make sure you know where you're aiming, you can have that. If you want to just hold down a trigger to auto aim, rather than trying to like absolutely nail that kind of like that balancing act of aiming the gun and steering the craft at the same time, you can swap that out for that instead. And that's what I really, really loved about it. And then that extends as well into the idea of, not just the campaign, but the versatility of the multiplayer options. So you can do competitive and you can do cooperative. And there's the user-generated missions, so that if you want to pit yourself against an absolutely impossible fight and just spend hours kind of learning the techniques and mastering flying, you can totally do that. So I agree with you that like it could do more in terms of like presentation and cinematics, and everything along those lines. But yeah, no, I totally think.
But they nailed the essentials, in my opinion. Yeah, they nailed the things that they needed to get right, which is when you're in the cockpit, it feels great. It really does. And I honestly, for plenty of people, that's all it needs to get right. So Jamie and I were talking about it. Mentioned a little bit to Heaney. This is such an amazing study in sim sickness mitigation and all the different tweaks you can do to it. There's a vignetting in there as well, so you can make your field of view smaller. There's even like a force vignetting, so I could always leave the field of view of my headset artificially minimized if the sickness kind of got me too much. And it does. It comes after a good 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the mode. I actually went quite a long time with Jamie on stream because I did the basic flying, and then we did the loop-de-loops. We took my control of the plane away, and it got to me faster after that.
Yeah, and to that point, when we were playing as well, someone from the community jumped in and played with us as well, who was clearly very, very passionate about the game. And it was kind of just a joy, even like to be playing at this, to be playing at this novice level and watch him like this ant amongst all these many, many flies, just kind of weaving through and finding his way through the combat. So yeah, there's clearly.
What was the final score?
Oh,
it was
I got
you had like 12,
kills.
15, and he had like 60 like kills and no deaths.
Mowing them down.
One of the features here that one of our viewers pointed out to us, which I just thought was brilliant, and I started using it as soon as they explained it, because it wasn't immediately. You don't really realize you can do this. You can basically punch the guns to reload them, and you have to like sometimes go through 2 rotations of like a gun volley in order to take down some of these enemies. And so like you're pulling down the triggers, and then as soon as they're out, you punch the guns and you're firing again. And it's amazing how much physicality there is to a cockpit game in this, and I love that.
Yeah, they definitely like looked at the fact that this was a World War I era game and thought, how can we get some of that rusticness to the flying in there as well, and not just make it that complete slick experience.
Amazing elevators and claws. The one that was waiting here for 30 minutes is back. I love that.
Hi.
We're like an hour into the stream.
Amazing elevators. You got a shout out right at the start of the stream. So if you want to travel back a bit and hear that, be my guest.
So people in chat were pointing out. So just to wrap that up, our review is coming very soon. Do you know when-ish? Like next week?
I'm guessing early next week, yeah.
Cool. Early next week, you can see our full thoughts on that. But people in the chat were pointing out that Stride has just released.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means? You can talk about it.
Oh, right. Okay, right. I was like, I thought you were going to like disappear and be like, so long, suckers, I'm off to play Stride.
No, you can talk about it.
Am I allowed to cast the video that I captured?
Yeah, let's give it a go, and if not, then I'll go back to the image.
Well, I've just pressed cast, And I can
done.
see it
It's
there.
good.
I can see it. Cool.
Yeah, I can see it on the screen.
All right. I mean, I had my whole script ready for cast, but Paradise DK in the chat just said, unfortunately, the Stride developer is not one that knows how to finish games, and that's kind of an interesting framing for where we're going with Stride. So this was obviously revealed last year, and the marketing pitch for it basically is Mirror's Edge in VR. No, it's not an official Mirror's Edge game, but it's as close as you're going to get to one in VR. Free running across rooftops, leaping, wall running, kind of pulling yourself over ledges, using a hook shot, using zip lines, all that kind of fun, fast-paced stuff that lots of people were always dreaming of. When the Oculus Rift first started becoming a thing, Mirror's Edge was very much one of those games where people were saying, oh man, imagine Mirror's Edge in VR. It took a long time to get there because you have to do a heck of a lot in terms of comfort and everything like that to make it even slightly feasible. What we're getting here, this is one of those technicality releases in that Facebook doesn't allow early access releases on the Quest store. So even though Stride is in early access on PC, it's released on Quest as a full game, but it's content that is parallel to what you get in the early access release on PC. And there's still a story mode and multiplayer modes to be implemented into this version of the game, just like it is on PC. And that's the problem. So there are free modes you get here, and they're all fun. There's endless mode, which is kind of just infinite rooms, running through, keeping going as long as you can go, get as far as you can go, ducking to avoid sniper fire, which is kind of the game at its purest, using all the different techniques it feeds you. There's arena mode, which is what's on the screen right now, where you have like this kind of small cross section of rooftops to be jumping over and doing like this rotating rota of three objectives, from taking out enemies to collecting suitcases to hitting checkpoints in a time. And then there's a time attack mode, which is a bunch of set courses that you can. There's 3-star ratings for based on how you complete, how fast you complete it. And they're all really fun, and they all speak to different strengths of the game. So endless mode captures the kind of variety that you can have of kind of dodging enemies, fighting back against them when you need to with a gun, using like diverging paths that you make kind of impulsive plans as you run, which is really, really cool. And then also, yes, the arena mode is a lot of fun in terms of it. I compare it in my review to like the beep test, or the multi-stage fitness test is the official name of that. Of that, you do an objective and then you have a couple of seconds where you kind of have to catch your breath, and then it's like, okay, you got 30 seconds to do the next thing. And it's kind of like that fitness endurance test, which I really, really enjoyed. And then there's the time attack mode, which is, take all the kind of agency out of it and just go as fast as you possibly can, and do the set things that we're telling you to do. And the game's controls, I think, work really, really well. You kind of, you use the stick to walk, you shake your arms to run, and then you press the A button, but like throw your arms up to jump. And that's tricky to get used to, but once you get used to it, you get this sense of heft and athleticism with it that I think is quite unique. Yeah. And you can get stuck in the environment and everything like that from time to time, but as far as it goes, that it's very, very polished in terms of all of those mechanics. The problem is those free modes feel like they are in service to a story mode or a multiplayer mode. They feel like they are the extras you go to once you've completed the other stuff. And even as those modes, they're fairly light. So, for example, the time attack mode, I would say I got into the Quest version, and I hadn't played in a year. I did the tutorial, I tested out the other two modes, so maybe total about half an hour of gameplay. And then I went to the time attack mode. I did the easiest level first run, and I thought, well, okay, I'll just see how hard this gets. And I went straight down to the bottom hard list of levels. And I did the final hardest level in the game in my second attempt. And that feels like we're not really getting to the real richness of the mechanics that Joyway has developed here, which is a real problem. So I think right now as a game, it can get its hooks into you, and you can have fun in these different modes, but it's still just not enough to really justify. And I personally would wait until we know that story mode at the very least is coming out on Quest and what it looks like, and then knowing that it lives up to like a 4 to 5 hour experience. That's what I would be waiting for, and we will re-review the game and revisit the game when we're there. But for now, I'm gonna my rating is okay, because even though I actually love the mechanics of Stride and I think it's quite thrilling to play, there's just not enough there to really justify that yet.
The thing with Joy Way is that they create great concepts for Moorish games. So this could be incredibly Moorish. The same with, what is that kind of rhythm shooter sort of game that they
Against that they had the Steam VR demo for,
Yeah, people went a little bit crazy for that, I think. People were really into it. I'll try and get it up for those who...
Yeah, for sure. Against is, and that's the perfect example. Against has an amazing concept, and you get in, you play it, and you're like, oh, this would make an incredible game. But it needs to be fleshed out into a full game to really justify it. And then even then, they've already announced another project beyond that called Outlier, which is kind of this superhero sim kind of thing, which is only in the very, very early prototype stages. But again, it's like, why would you announce that right now? Can't we all just focus on Stride and get that out the door in a complete and really satisfying package? And I know that they had 2 projects before this. I think one of them was kind of one of those, you pause time and solve a puzzle by pushing things into place and everything like that sort of vibe. And I know they didn't carry through with all the things that people were hoping you would get out of those experiences. I feel like Stride for them has been successful enough that they are going to stick with it, and they are going to deliver a story mode and the multiplayer mode, which is in beta testing on Steam VR anyway. It's just, I just want those things at launch. If you're launching on Quest, it might not be your fault that Facebook doesn't allow early access releases on Quest. But that means for us, that means consumers are going onto the Quest store and not getting the warning that, hey, this game isn't complete yet. So it has to be judged as a full product, in my opinion. And it's just, there's just not enough of it for a full product just yet. And again, I will happily go back to Stride and reevaluate in the months to come when there is a campaign and there is hopefully that multiplayer mode on Quest. But for now, there's just not enough there.
Yeah. That's a big old shame. So, you can choose to get it, choose not to, but, we've classed it as an okay, with hopes that they will expand on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Somewhat ignoring, sorry, you can see me kind of pinching the air here. I'm typing in our next impressions title that we're going to be touching on, which you may have seen the stream of it earlier this week. We also streamed Cooking Simulator. That was just Jamie and I. We jumped on in. Here we go. God, it takes a lot to type when you've just got hand tracking. Anyway, this was very interesting. Again, this is just impressions. This released last week, I believe. This was not the game I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be one of those kind of job simulator sort of things where you can jump in, you can be silly if you want to. You even said that at the beginning of the stream. You can be silly if you want to, or you can, do it properly.
Yeah.
You have to do this properly. It's not fun if you do it silly, because then you just completely mess everything up. I chucked away like a half-done trout, and then I was like, I'll just get another trout. And then I got it out, and it was... I chucked the trout into this unreachable area. I was trying to start on this other one, but it wasn't counting that one as my trout. So I had to completely restart it all. But I thought this was wonderful. It was really delightful. It was actually something that I didn't know I really wanted. I was like, real life simulator sort of stuff. You see it with like the military sims and the flying stuff. But you don't necessarily see it with things like this, and they have done it wonderfully. Like, for example, I told a story about Jamie oversalting stuff. And he did it in game. It reflected perfectly.
That's very true.
But the only thing for me that has somewhat held it back are some I'm going to consider these as bugs, not necessarily my own like hiccups of sometimes when I am trying to complete a dish, it doesn't always register it, and then I have to redo it. And, you know, it can be a tiny bit tedious with that. And also the physics jitters. It's pretty much a physics game. But like when I plated up said trout, the parsley flew off of it and it went all on the floor. And it was funny, but happening every time, it was a little bit too much. Like, look how tiny that is, and then you have to pick that up off the floor.
It's a really finicky game, isn't it? Like
it
like
is
you
finicky,
said, like,
yes, yeah.
It is small little bits, and then like it's not like I poured soup into a bowl, and then I picked up the bowl, and just because there's no feedback in my hand, so it's just impossible not to slosh it everywhere. And it's really impressive in terms of the fact that it knows that if you've got your hand at a slight degree, that's all going to fall out. I don't think really when we're talking about this stuff, we're talking about to the game's detriment, because that is part of the fun. Making mistakes is part of that silly slapstick fun that I was kind of talking about, and the idea of forgetting that you've left the oven on, and in the back you kind of turn around and have to do a double take because suddenly there's something on fire or something like that. All of that's really fun. But I agree with you, like sometimes it doesn't quite understand those systems. So you restarted the trout when you threw the trout, like you said, and the game didn't track that you'd started a new trout, right? So you had to go and find. That's why you had such a problem with it, because you had to go and find the old trout in the middle of the nether regions that you'd thrown it into, that no one was allowed to, the Shadowlands, if you will. And also, I just saw a comment saying it's such a shame stuff like this is not coming to Quest. It was not running well for us yesterday because it is such a heavy physics-driven game, and getting it on Quest. I think you could do it, but I think you'd have to have a much more kind of regimented, taking a lot of the items out in the environment at the same time, and maybe reducing menus so that instead of having 8 tomatoes and an onion in the soup, maybe it's like 4 tomatoes and an onion or something, or the tomato disappears when you put it into the bowl and stuff. It would need a lot of work on that front.
But then that would make it look shabby and not complete. And this is the cooking simulation game. Cooking simulation game. They've fully done it, to be honest. And the thing that confused me is that I swear we heard about this ages and ages ago, and it was playable ages ago. But that may have just been my assumptions. Has it?
I wrote the news story that it was happening ages ago, but I don't. I think maybe then they did a bunch of alpha testing that we weren't allowed to report on.
It's also a pretty common title idea name. Like I think cooking in VR has been attempted a lot of times, so you might be thinking of one of the others.
Yeah, for sure. And the slicing, the other thing I wanted to say, sorry,
the
slicing is incredibly accurate and finicky, which I really, really love. I guess really what you could say is you kind of wish you could almost remove some of the simulation from. Well, no, I don't even mean the simulation. I mean stuff like the perks and the powers that you unlock. I could have done without some of that stuff, at the end of the day, I think. But other than that, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's wonderful. If I were to review it, I'm not a reviewer here on UploadVR. These two are. But if I were to review this, I think I would be going for around great, if not just touching on essential, as it is the VR cooking game that, if you're looking for a real simulation there, you should go for it. But that is just my personal review. It is not official. But yeah, it's fantastic. They even had a very strange fake Gordon Ramsay that was telling you what to cook, and it was like, really? Without the swearing.
It was a darn sight nicer.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. So there you have it. You can check out all of the stories and all of the reviews. Yes?
You've forgotten Everslaught again. And
my God, there's Everslaught!
And I want to mention one bit of news too before we go off.
Okay. Let's first of all, it's just a little touch on this because I have nothing to say about this other than the announcement. Do you want to announce it, Ian, or
what? The news I've got to share?
The news that you're ready to share.
Did I lose my hands? Oh, just that Pistol Whip is going to go up in price next week with the release of their Smoke and Thunder campaign. So,
really?
Yes, it's going to go.
I didn't know it was
going to
go
in
up.
Price.
Oh, I thought they were just charging for that campaign.
No, it's going to be included with, for people who have bought the game, but now they've got a fully packaged product that they're ready to sort of say that it's worth a little bit more now. So if you haven't gotten on the Pistol Whip bandwagon yet and have been rolling your eyes whenever I bring it up on one of our shows, now is your chance to get in for a lower price and get the new style system update and their new playable campaign. That'll be 2 full campaigns in there that you can sort of run through. So there's 2 stories that you can go through in one continuous way, and then of course the single songs that you can play now with just a ridiculous number of modifiers to alter the game in just a huge range of ways. So that's those things are coming next week, and we will have a lot to share about that as soon as that releases.
That's a good play by them. I think that's a good move instead of starting to charge for additional stuff, because they're going to give people this warning. They've already given people the warning that if you want in at the original price, it's now or never. And they've done such a good job for so long with free content with Pistol Whip that it's earned at the end of the day, isn't it? Like it is.
Mm-hmm.
I have no complaints about them doing that. They must have put in like double the amount of content since launch. Oh, the reason Ian's not talking is because Ian's disappeared. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's fine, because again, I have nothing to say about it, and as we all know, Ian loves it. Wonderful, good bit of news there. But we should finish off on one little bit of impressions on a very popular game. We actually reported that this game. Let me see if it's actually playing. It's black screen for me right now. If you've got an image for it. No, it's black screen. Okay. Get up an image of it. 1,000 of you actually bought this. Have I died? Oh, Jamie's died. I'm by myself. 1,000 of you guys actually bought this on its launch day. It's Everslaught, which is the new kind of hack and slash sort of. Hey, Ian.
Hello.
What's up?
I don't know. I got booted out. Did Jamie get booted out too?
Yeah, Jamie just got booted out as well. Yeah. We just moved on to Everslaught. Is Jamie back? No. So Jamie actually played this. I'm gonna actually find some gameplay. Here he is.
Hello.
Wonderful.
Should I talk about Everslaught?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get the video up because this hand tracking is annoying the hell out of me.
Get your controllers.
Yeah, I went and grabbed my controllers too when I got kicked out.
No, I know. I tried the controller earlier and it didn't register it, but that's fine.
So yeah, Everslaught is kind of your. It's an interesting thing. It's an arcade, very arcadey rogue like. I want to say like. I think it's like, not light. And you go through what you call blood runs, which is where you just go through different randomized rooms, beat the crap out of some zombified alien types, move on to the next room, gather the blood, get upgrades, rinse and repeat. Maybe you die sometimes, maybe you make it through the course sometimes. So it's an arcadey experience, like I said at the start. The sword combat is kind of lacking for me right now. It's if you get used to the kind of, it's hard to say this without laughing. If you get used to the kind of wrist movements you need to make, you'll very quickly master just slaughtering enemies really, really quickly.
That's what she said.
The really funny twists to it are a hook shot and a hand cannon that have a lot of power, a lot of punch to them. They make the gameplay much faster paced, much more interesting than if you're just using the melee combat. It's just an early access release. I wanted to pick it up and take a look at it because there's been some buzz around it this week. Like I think you were saying, it's done quite well by PSVR standards since launch. And it's got pretty positive reviews on Steam as well. People are really, really into it.
Well, there's been so much buzz that Scope SF has just given us $10 in super chat. Thank you so much for that. They said, thank you for mentioning Everslaught. This is one of those games that deserves it recognition, and it would be criminal for it to go under the radar.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's definitely worth recognition. I think if you're looking for that kind of meaty arcade experience on PC, bearing in mind it's early access and it's not fully fleshed out, and they don't anticipate bringing it out of early access until the end of next year, I think it's really really fun for that, and it's good mindless action, and there's some really cool interaction. So this gun I'm using on the screen right now, Zeena's just taking it off, I think. Whatever.
No, I haven't.
It just paused. It just broke.
Okay, it's still
the gun I'm using on
the
stream right now, is really fun. I just want to see the sword combat be pushed a bit further and get away from, I'm sick of using this term, but the wee waggle aspect of just get them, kill them now, wave your hands and kill them. That essentially. I want to see them kind of grow that over the course of the next year and a bit, and have something. I'm not up to the level of Blade and Sorcery, because it's an arcade game and it's meant to have a certain pace to it, and I want to see them keep that pace. But you can do that with slightly deeper sword fighting mechanics. So that's the only thing I would like to see. How beefy of a PC do you need for that, Ops? You need a pretty beefy PC, because my 1080 and your 260 Super were kind of struggling while recording it. And there's not actually, I couldn't find any graphic settings in game yet. So I'm hoping it's going to need an optimization pass. But
there's one thing where you can do the streaming option or not. So when you go in, it's actually very zoomed in on your PC. And I think that's probably what you see in headset. I didn't have the headset on. But when you do it on streamer option, it zooms it all the way back to what I assume, where your head actually is. But that slows it down a little bit, at least a little bit.
Well, I want to go back. I saw a question asking about the price of Pistol Whip. So it's going to go up to $29.99 on the 15th, I believe it is. Or no, so new players can purchase the title for $24.99 until August 15th. And after that, it will go to $29.99.
That's not too big of a price hike.
A heist break.
Heist break.
Terrible news. No! Next week, Whistle Pip will heist break. Sorry.
Oh God! All right. Well, there you have it.
I bet there's a few people out there that would read like a Pig Latin version of our website.
I don't want to spend the resources.
I've never understood
need to go into finding out how many
stupid Pig Latin, or what's egg something or other. I don't know what the hell you call it.
Egg something.
It was a similar thing, but it was like egg language or something like that. I don't know, in primary school. Anyway, never understood it. Never
From now
want
on,
to.
It's called Whistle Pip, like someone says. It's not Pistol Pip, it's Whistle Pip.
Whistle Pip is going up in price.
Finally, will UploadVR do a video on the multitasking / Android app Quest integrations from Jamie's fantastic write-up? Yeah.
That wasn't me, was it? That was you, wasn't it?
It was me, yeah. Don't you give credit for Jamie. Jamie does
Thank you, Shola. Thank you so much
away
for those.
The few things that I do that he does not do. Come on. Oh my gosh. So the problem... Yes, we're going to work on more things for multitasking. The issue is that it doesn't look great on video. All the multitasking stuff, the Android apps, more or less don't really show up on all the recording methods we have. And I don't know if I want to go through all the ridiculous hoops I have to go through to get 5 seconds of footage showing, Netflix running in there. So yes, we'll have more content on multitasking and Android apps, but videos is one of those things we're gonna have to choose our approach there.
Yeah,
and
sure.
And to Shola's other question, we like 3D platformers in VR. I reviewed Ven when it came out on PC at the end of last year. I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's amazing. But I'm a huge fan of Astrobot, so let's hope we get more of that on PSVR 2 as well.
Cool. All right. I think that about wraps everything up. Are there any other surprise headlines that we want to chuck out there?
I'm increasing the price of myself to $29.99 next week. Oh, should have thought that one through before I said it. Okay.
We've been in VR for too long. Our brains have just disintegrated. So let's wrap it up. Everything that you have heard today, you can check out over at UploadVR.com. If you've been looking down at the little bar at the bottom there and you think, oh, that sounds like an interesting headline that I just saw, it's on UploadVR.com. We've also had the members going over and over there. They're very interested in looking in the chat. Consider becoming a member and supporting us month by month. And yeah, we'll be here every Thursday. Buy our t-shirt. We'll be here every Thursday at 5 p.m. BST. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a blast.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look
I
over
can't
here.
see my hands. I'm a Viking king. I'm a Viking king.
Whoa, 1 second! Daniel Lingard Leaper just put in £2!
Is this a post-credit scene?
Yeah, it's a post-credit
It's paying for you, Jamie. It's paying for
Wow.
you. Your increased price.
Well, maybe I
Is
can
the extra for you?
put it back down.
Oh, message retracted!
Oh.
Goodbye, everybody!
I'm a Viking king.